The state of politics right now is messed up. It is messed up. I never thought we'd be in this situation. I never thought we would have the most incompetent buffoon as Prime Minister, but we do. With a cabinet loaded with the worst of the worst. One of those, Amber Rudd, has now stepped down, but she's not stepped down for the reasons that she said. She doesn't care about the country. If she cared about the country, she would have scrapped universal credits like that. If she cared about the country, she would not have been complicit and joined Theresa May with the cover-up of conservative politicians who have committed sexual offences, sexual assault offences and charges of paedophilia, which Theresa May and Amber Rudd had quietly thrown under the carpet. She would not have been complicit with Theresa May, who lied about funding towards education. She would not have been complicit with Theresa May. She lied about funding towards the NHS. She would not have been complicit in anything Theresa May did. Amber Rudd is a horrible, horrible human being. So why do I think she's left? Well, it's going to be one of two reasons. First and foremost, and this could be the most likely, considering the band of deplorables that is the cabinet. Amber Rudd is incredibly career-driven. Now, that's not a bad thing. That can be rewarded in any stray. If that's what you want from life, if you want to be career-driven, that's fine. But hitching your ride to Boris Johnson is pretty damn stupid. This man is quickly, if not already, shaped up to be the most incompetent Prime Minister this country has ever had. Going down a no-deal Brexit route, which is what he's doing, is unbelievably dumb, and it will destroy this country. Now, Brexiteers are on always going, oh, of course it won't, that's Project Fear, and we've been through it over and over again. There are drugs that we don't make in this country. Insulin, for example. Every single bit of insulin in this country, not one of it was made. Not an ounce of it was made. It is all imported. And as we leave the European Union with no deal, importing becomes a massive issue. So people who need insulin to live will not actually be able to have it. It's a massive issue. I was recently sent a video of George Galloway going on and on about it. On and on about different things and Project Fear and all that crap. Well, it's not the fact we can't buy insulin. It's not the fact that people won't want our business. It's the fact that we don't have a trade deal, so it will get stuck at customs because everything has to be stopped and gone through, and it's a lot harder to get it, and it's a lot more expensive to get it, because of course it's expensive to get it. If you don't have a trade deal, you have to have tariffs. If you don't have a trade deal, you fall on WTO. That's tariffs. But, of course, ignoring that and going back to Amber Rudd, Boris Johnson has not passed a single bill. He has been laughed at. He's been slapped down. He's been entertaining to watch, but that's part of the issue. People think because he's entertaining to watch, he knows what he's doing. And he should be the most, arguably the most powerful man in the country. He shouldn't. This man is a petulant child. But if you hitch yourself to that cabinet, you're going to go down in flames, because now running in any local elections, Amber Rudd has to answer why. Why did you keep with Boris Johnson's cabinet? And what's the answer going to be? I didn't know he was pushing for a no-deal Brexit. I didn't know how incompetent he was. I didn't know how destructive he was. I didn't know that he doesn't care about the country in any way, shape or form. Sorry, but if you've been paying attention to politics in the last 5 years alone, you know that. So yeah, incredibly career-driven woman, and she does want a future in politics. The second reason, we've had reports coming out about Boris Johnson for a long time now, and these reports are pretty much the same as the reports we get from Trump. People who have been around him, not only is he just an effing idiot, but he's incredibly difficult to work with, and he's just an outright prick. He treats people like scum. This man is a disgusting human being. And let's face it, if your boss is constantly shouting at you, how long are you actually going to take it for? I mean, me personally, I couldn't take it that long. I couldn't. I've worked in care for 6-7 years now. I can get a care job pretty damn easily. So it's not a massive issue. If I have an issue in the care home I work in, I can just go to another care home. I live in Dover. That's the main job in Dover, is in care. So yeah, being treated like a piece of crap and knowing that your career is going down the pan every single day that you stay hitched to it is probably why Amber Rudd left. Not the fact that she's just realised that Boris Johnson has the goal of sending us for a no deal. But then you've got Johnson's actual acts. Now, it's been through the courts and it's been made very, very blatantly aware to Johnson, to Bojo, that if he does go with a no deal, he will be breaking the law. And legal experts have said, no, this is something that you would actually, or could actually go to prison for. I mean, I would like to see Boris Johnson in prison because, let's not forget, Boris Johnson is the reason why Nazim Radcliffe is sat in an Iranian prison cell right now. Boris Johnson got a British citizen thrown in a foreign prison cell because of his incompetency and the fact that he's just so fucking disgusting. And has done nothing to rectify this. Nothing at all. I can't stand Jeremy Hunt, but when he was Foreign Secretary, he did more to fix Boris's mistake and get Nazim out of that foreign prison than Boris did, than Boris even thought of. So I would love for Boris Johnson to go to prison. Now, he's incredibly wealthy, and we very, very rarely see very wealthy people go to prison, so I don't think that will happen. And it's not like Boris Johnson hasn't broken the law before. It's not like the Conservatives haven't broken the law before. That's typically what they do. They consistently break the law bit by bit until it becomes normalised, and then they turn around and go, what are you having a go at us for? I'm doing it for years. This isn't anything out of the ordinary. Shut up. It's what they do. But it could happen, I suppose. Again, I do want to see him in prison, but that will certainly end his prime ministerial run. If it's for 12 months, I believe he will be out of the government completely. He would be able to rerun when he's out, obviously, but then it's people are you're a criminal and you're trying to get people to vote for you. I personally think there's a lot of people in prison who don't deserve to be in prison. If you've committed a non-violent crime, I don't think you should be in prison. But when it comes to Bojo and people of that magnitude, yes, because you've had no consequences your entire life. But then it's still, could a criminal of that level get people to vote for him? I'm sure there are people who would still vote for him regardless. But that's where he would be. But of course, would he actually go to prison? He's incredibly wealthy, and wealthy people have different rules to the rest of us. And then we're in a situation where we still have people who completely ignore reality, and experts are highlighting certain problems. I mean, that's a big problem. It's a very big problem. Insulin, for example. People keep forgetting about insulin. In fact, a video was sent to me by a friend of George Galloway. Now, I have to premise this. I used to really like Gallows, because at the time he was the only politician, even now, one of the rare few, who would actually call out the right-wing government of Israel for murdering innocent children. He was one of the few people who said, no, you don't get a free pass just to butcher people. The excuse of, we had to bomb this school, we had to bomb this hospital because there's a terrorist cell in there. Okay, well, show us the evidence. How dare you ask for evidence, you anti-Semite? It's not anti-Semitic. You've just murdered an entire hospital saying that there was a terrorist group in there. Where's the evidence? There isn't any. So I like the fact that he called that out. I like the fact that he boycotted Israeli goods as a protest for the unjustified slaughter of Palestinians. But certainly his position on Brexit is one of incredible stupidity. So during this video, he mentions that he condemned doctors who came out and said, no, we're going to have a serious shortage of medicines and it's going to lead to deaths. He condemned that. Just if you look at insulin. Now, his argument was, we make drugs. We make drugs, and of course people are going to want to sell to us. Yes, we do make drugs. We don't make insulin. Every bit of insulin in this country has been imported. And it's not that people will now not want to sell to us. It's the fact that the prices are going to be marked up. It's also the fact that without a trade deal, which we do not have a single trade deal, without a trade deal, these medications are going to be stuck in customs along with everything else. That's going to lead to the shortages. If you require insulin to live, if you're diabetic and you're dependent on insulin, not having it is going to lead to a ton of problems. And if you don't have diabetes, imagine, for example, one person in a car is diabetic. They're driving. They've not had their insulin that day because shortages, or they're trying to ration it because shortages, because it's in customs, but we have to check everything manually. Well, that person can drift off and crash into a mother and child on the street. And we're going to have the same problems with people who suffer from seizures. That's one of the biggest problems when it comes to medication. And that's being ignored completely. Now, for me, I've said 100 times, I work in social care. I'm very aware of the people that I look after, and I'm very aware of the people that I've looked after who require insulin just to exist, just to keep living. I'm very aware of these people. I'm very aware of the people that I look after that suffer from seizures, and the people that I've looked after in the past that suffer from seizures. The life they have, the life they've had, is in jeopardy because we have a government for the last 3 years who have refused to do anything. And it's all very well and good saying, well, this comes down to Theresa May because she was a Remainer and she didn't have the deal. Well, Theresa May had the deal. The problem is, it highlighted very clearly that the Brexiteer politicians were lying through their arseholes. And now it puts us into the position that Brexiteers said we were in for decades, which we weren't. But our own government didn't go for it. Also has to be said that the first person we sent over to start negotiations for these Brexit deals was David Davis, a massive Brexiteer, a hardline Brexiteer. We sent a Brexiteer over to start everything, and his overwhelming incompetence made us the laughingstock. And then, of course, we had Dominic Raab. Dominic Raab, who had no idea, after months of the job, had no idea that Dover was kind of important, with its 10,000 lorries coming through every single day, being one of the busiest ports in the world and one of the busiest in the country. We've had Brexiteers running the show for 3 years, and this is the position that we're in. So that's the state of politics. And now, of course, we're on the prorogue of Parliament, so nothing can actually get done. While normally this would only be a few days, Bojo has dragged it out for 5 weeks to make sure that we can't do anything. Now, of course, we could get an extension. A few months. I mean, France has said no. France has been insulted by Jacob Rees-Mogg, who stands to gain massively with a no-deal Brexit. So he's been insulting France for a long time. So they've not wanted to be very friendly to us for obvious reasons. You can only be called to see you next Tuesday so many times before you turn around and punch the person calling you in the face. But we've had people like Gordon Brown, amazingly, that dickhead doing a lot of good work and going to extreme lengths to get goodwill with us within Europe. So now France, as my understanding, is more leaning towards giving us a 2-year extension. Now, I know a lot of Brexiteers will hate that, and it is my belief as a Remainer that we will leave the European Union. I think we will leave. I do. I don't think we're going to stay in any way, shape or form. But even if you are a Brexiteer, we've done nothing. Trade deals take years. Trade deals can take, on average, between 5 and 7 years. This isn't a trade deal with the EU. This is in general around the world. They can take between 5 and 7 years. We've had 3 years, and the closest thing we have is the word from a pathological liar who doesn't actually have the power, the authority, or the brain power to actually sign off on a trade deal in general. And that particular trade deal with the US would be horrible. It would be catastrophic for us. It wouldn't serve us in any way, shape or form. But it would work very nicely for certain American companies. But again, it'd have to go through the House of Representatives, and they've all said, yeah, no, if the UK keeps shitting on the Irish border and they don't respect the Good Friday Agreement, we're not signing off on a goddamn thing. And it has to go through them. It doesn't go through Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not a dictator as of yet. But yeah, trade deals take years, and we have no trade deals set up. So again, we still have the same problems with customs. We still have the same problems with imports and exports. We have the same problem with actually getting customers for the stuff we produce and sell. Because if we don't have a trade deal, we can't sell anything. And if we do sell anything, it's on WTO, which is tariffs. And why the hell are you going to pay a lot more money when you can get something that's local for a lot cheaper? Doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not how the world works. But it kind of feeds into a number of articles that have been written about the ego that Brexiteers have with the British Empire. But that's where we're at. So a 2-year extension would do us the world of good, because we might actually get someone who can negotiate a trade deal instead of Brexiteers who don't know their arsehole from their elbows. As we've gone 17 minutes, rapidly approaching 18 minutes, I'm going to wrap this video up. But politics today is a shit show. It is a shit show. And even if we didn't have Brexit, my God, we still have what Sajid Javid has done to social care, which I'm going to try and do a video later on tonight about. But cutting a lot of money from social care, cutting even more money from education, cutting even more money from our pensions. And just as a side note, because this does often come up in conversation, people saying, oh, Tony Blair is a Remainer because that way he gets to keep his pension. 2015, Tony Blair's net worth was £60 million. If a pension bothered anything about him at all, he'd still be entitled to the UK pension, which he's still going to get. But I'm pretty sure he could just apply for citizenship with that amount of money without having to take a fucking test, and he'd get an EU pension. If you are a Brexiteer, please stop bringing up Tony Blair and the fact that he's only interested in a pension. The man is a multi-millionaire. He won't notice getting a pension or not. He won't. And it's a really, really dumb argument. I'm interested in talking to Brexiteers despite how angry I get. But stop coming with me with these debunked, moronic arguments. The EU do not make laws that control or denigrate your life. They don't tell us what to do. The most they do is tell corporations and companies, stop fucking your employees and actually be a decent person, which in the UK largely our companies get to ignore because we have a Tory Conservative government. But okay, 20 minutes, that's enough. We're done.